So now all these activities are done from a certain section of Oracle HCM, and we'll see all those things in a screen. Right now I'm going with PPT and we have a live exercise for each and every activity.
You were mentioning about the security manager, right? And when we go in as the functional consultants, initially, like we'll be implementers, right? What kind of role we'll be getting? Like we'll be getting the supervisor role with the implementation IT security manager role, or what?
Okay, so see, supervisor user will have all the roles. So some of the roles I can tell you, it will have IT security manager, because same super user is responsible to create other users. It will have an application implementation manager role. Application implementation manager role is responsible to create your implementation projects. And it will also have an application implementation consultant role. So if you see it, that is actually responsible to do different activities like creation of location, creation of business unit. So as a functional consultant, suppose that your manager wants you to do a benefit implementation. So in that case, you need to have an application implementation consultant so that you can see the implementation project. You can see what your manager has assigned. Plus all the roles which is required for benefit implementation. That is benefit administrator role. Okay. Suppose a person is responsible, or a functional person is responsible to work on a payroll. So that person should have an application implementation consultant role in order to see what is happening in an implementation project, what task has been assigned to that person, plus all the role which is responsible for payroll configurations, like your payroll specialist, payroll administrator role. Then only the person will be able to assign or can be able to functionally configure the payroll module.
Mm-hmm. So you mean to say like the implementation manager will just have the entire responsibilities, so you can transition to anybody at any point of time. Like,
Yeah.
see, once the implementation is over, like, let us say the functional consultant is an implementation manager initially. So he just transitions to the other person in the company to take over, something like that.
So see what happens when the implementation is done, what happens in a real-time scenario. So as implementation, you will hand over all those things to the client or the stakeholders. Okay. And what they will do is that they will create their own user. Suppose that now the person from client is okay. So they will start using their own profile and they will start adding the required roles to their own profile. Okay. And once the project is done, you have completed your job, so they will log the account of implementation user.
Okay.
So it is like transition. So when you are done with your transitioning process, everything is complete, client or the end user is ready to take the charge, then what they do is that they actually lock or deactivate the account of all the implementation users.
As an implementer, how far you should have the knowledge of LDAP and all that stuff? I mean, is it something a process which you just kick in and it works, or you need to do a lot of configuration to get that?
Nothing. It is just a process. It is just a process. You need to click on that process and you need to click submit. We'll see all of them. So okay. It is like nothing. You need to have any knowledge of LDAP. Everything is running behind the system. You have a process, just trigger it. It will take care of each and everything. Now, whatever functional configuration you will do, or either you create an implementation project, whatever activities you will do in Oracle HCM, we generally do from one place, and that is called functional setup manager. So functional setup manager is a place or a screen where we will go and create an implementation project, where we will go and try to search for a task and perform that task. And to have an access of FSM, again, two roles are needed: application implementation manager and application implementation consultant role. So let me go into the system, and after that I will come back to this. So this is the landing page. So what we call this page as a simplified user interface, Fuse, Fusion User Simplified Interface. So again, this is the place. I will go one by one. So again, you have this navigator. So navigator can actually help you to land to the different pages depending upon your requirement. Suppose that if you want to do some person related activity, if you want to search a person, then you can go to a person management. Again, if you want to do activity like a manager, then you can go under sections like my team. So again, you will see, depending upon the roles which this user is having, all these navigations are coming. All these navigation under me is coming due to the employee role. It is me which I will perform the activity. My team, all the activities under my team are coming due to line manager role. My client group, all these are coming due to the HR role, HR specialist. So HR, any person who have an HR specialist will be able to do all these activities for different people. Then, as a benefit administrator, I will have these navigations. As a payroll person, I will have these navigations. And again, we have other navigations for sales, advanced control management, supply chain planning, which are actually for different uh, different modules like finance or supply chain management or different, which is not related to our HR. So any question on this navigations? Okay. Again, all these are like same thing what you have seen in the navigator will start appearing there. So you can click on my team and all those activities or all those navigations will start appearing. Now, whenever there is some notifications, it will come into this place. Suppose that your password has been changed or your something has come to you for approval. Maybe you are a manager and your direct reportee is applying for a leave. So all those notifications will come here and you can approve or reject or do whatever actions which is required from these places. We generally call this as a notification bell. Then you can also create certain watch list and all those watch lists will start appearing in this place. Then you can also save certain pages of the entire application as a favorite and it will start appearing into this section. Home is nothing but the home page. Now this is your credentials, username. If you click on this arrow next to the username, you have a different options like as this is a super user. So you will see that we have a lot of things like run diagnostic test, record issue, then we have application help about this application which will help you to know what is the release of this application and all those things. Then manage sandbox, highlight flex fields. So all these we'll discuss in more detail once we have our customization or sessions going on.
So when you say record issue means it's kind of SR?
SR. So maybe Oracle will ask you that, or you can record an issue, certain issue, and you can say that, yeah.
Okay. Like
Oracle will give you an option that this is how you can record, and they will give you a set of document, and after that you can record a issue, and you can, if they want, you can share this thing to the SR. Okay. Now, the first page or the most important screen in the entire application is functional setup manager for a functional guy. So that is a place where we are going to do all those functional setup, creation of implementation project and everything. So for that, click on the navigation or the arrow next to your name. Click on setup and maintenance. You can go to setup and maintenance by navigator also. So from both the place you can go. If you click on a navigator, if you click more, because this person is having a lot of things, there you will see a setup and maintenance. So this is when you click on a setup and maintenance. So this is our functional setup manager. So this is the place, the first landing page for you guys to create an implementation project or to do any sort of activity as an implementation user. So remember we talked about a process that is actually required to sync the LDEP or OIM and HCM. So this is the process, run user and rule synchronization process. So for the first time you have to create on this process and you need to click on submit. Nothing more. So as this we have already used this instance from a long time, so this is not required. But this is the first activity you will do whenever you receive a first press instance. Now, on the left hand side, you can see a module name, compensation management. So this is your offering. So you can click on this. So depending upon your licenses, all offering will start appearing. So this instance is actually a test instance. So we'll have all those offerings enabled. So now compensation management is actually responsible for all your compensations and benefit thing. So if you see, this offering has different options or different activities which you need to do. So first of all is initial user, like creating an initial set of users. Then you have your enterprise profile. There you will create your enterprise or there will create your divisions. Then you will create a legal structure. So these are the different set of activities which you need to do. Now, if you click on this, so you can actually view documents also which is related to it, or you can actually export or import the set of activities or the things from other instances. Suppose that if you want this initial user, you have configured the initial user in your test environment and everything is fine, then you can export it. And after that, in the another instance, you can go and import it. So a lot of things can be done. Now, our first lab exercise is to go into this setup and maintenance. From setup and maintenance, we will open this FSM, Functional Setup Manager. And from this task pan, we will create our implementation project. So we'll click on Manage Implementation Project. Okay, so these are the implementation projects which are already created by different trainees. So we will click on this create sign. Okay, now let me give a proper name. So I will use TR. Okay, so this is my project name. So it is TR SCM code training underscore project. For you guys, whenever you are doing an exercise, so just try to prefix your name before TR. So maybe Santosh can use S, or maybe you can have your first name or last name combination, so that we will use this implementation project throughout our 5 days of training. So whenever you are creating any object, try to have a naming convention. So maybe you can use the first letter of your first name and the first letter of your last name, and you can use, suppose that PK underscore TR, so that you can easily recognize the things. Because the business unit which you will create, the same business unit you will also use in other activities. So I will use a naming convention which will start with TR. Assign to, change the date to 1801.
So once we get the access, this is the basic, any implementation guy will go there and start this process. The first basic
so
step.
the first is to run the process to sync the LDEP and HCM, and this will be your second step.
Okay.
So process we are not running because this is not a fresh instance. We have already ran the process. If you want, you can give a try. That will not harm.
Okay.
But it is like we have to wait. One person execute, when it gets complete, then only the second person can start. This is something which an implementation manager will do, which the person is having a application implementation manager role. Click next. Now, if you remember, I have mentioned that whenever you are creating an implementation project, you have to identify the offerings on which we want to work. So maybe I will select an offering and I will select like a payroll, absences, core HR. So for that I have to select workforce deployment. All the modules related to talent actually falls under workforce development. For compensation you need to select compensation, which also includes benefit. So as we have this core HR session training, so we'll select this workforce deployment. Expand this. So now again, each offering have a different options like payroll, absences, workforce predictions, workforce scheduling, time and labor. So again, depending upon your requirement, you have to choose them. So maybe I'm selecting payroll, I'm selecting absence management. I'm selecting network at work, time and labor. And it is like you have to select the top also and you have to select the children also. So let me select all of them. And you also need to select the BI part, because then only your reporting will start working. So each of the module or each of the options will have a BI part.
Should we have the license for all the offerings, or just you can click on all the offerings and implement?
If you click all the offerings also, it doesn't make, if you don't have a license, it will not work.
So only the ones which have been licensed, those will
It
work.
will appear there. Yeah, and it will only the ones you have license will appear. This instance is actually having a license for each and everything. That is, you are able to see each and everything.
Okay. So it appears only the things, even if you select whatever license you have, only those will be implemented.
Yeah. Okay. And it will not appear also. Any unwanted modules, if you don't have a license, will not appear. And you can create more than one implementations project. Suppose that if you want to capture core HR separately, if you want to capture talent separately, if you want to capture compensation separately. So in that case, we can create 3 implementation projects. So what we have done is that we created a project and we selected each and every offerings of workforce deployment. Click on Save and Open Project. So depending upon what we have selected, what options and offering we have selected, a set of tasks will start appearing. So see, we have this project and we've only selected offering which is workforce deployment. And in this offering, we selected different options. And depending upon those options, a set of tasks has been generated. So these set of tasks will really help us to make sure that for these things or for these set of offerings to be complete, we need to complete these many tasks. Suppose that if we want to complete time and labor. So for time and labor options, we have to complete these many subtasks. Again, if you open a subtask, you will have many other tasks also. So you have to work on each and every task. If you want to go to that task, you have to click on go to task.
So this is like menus and functions when it compared to EBS.
Yeah, yeah. Then currently status is not started. Now, suppose that as a manager, I created a project. I actually identified the offerings and options, and a task list has been generated. Now I have a team of 5 members. So what I will do is that for the first task, I will assign this task to somebody. Highlight this task, click on assign task. You can assign a due date also, and you can assign a user. So maybe let's assign it to test5.prc.
So is this intended to replace the project plan, or like the project plan still always will be there while you're implementing it? I mean, it totally looks like a project plan.
Yeah, but the project plan is something which you do in your Excel or some other softwares.
I mean, that's where you identify all the network activities and then people and dates and all that.
Yeah.
It's basically it's doing the same thing here.
Same thing. If you want, you can use this also. But I have never seen anybody going with this implementation project as a replacement for project plan. Because what happens, many times we create and we assign the task and we forget. It is like a best way to do the thing. But if you do a real-time implementation, we hardly assign any task to anybody. It is like, I know I am a person who is responsible for compensation, so I will take all those compensation related activities. Creation of implementation project is mandatory, but assigning task and everything is like, if you want, it is like a good to have functionality, which nobody actually do in a real time. Because
once
I
the
have
go live
seen many
happens, I mean,
projects.
it's hardly of any use. I mean, once the go live happens, it's
Yeah.
hardly of any use. Who did what and when it was done, nobody would care to
Yeah.
go back and do that.
And suppose that if I assign this also in edit status, if you assign a task, then a person has to come and edit the status of a task. The person has to complete. But in a real-time scenario, nobody comes and those and the actually perform these activities like editing and completion and everything.
I see.
So you mean to say in a real-time project, which is they don't worry about this much, that much about this project planning in this, right? They will.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is like a good to have. I'm telling you that you can also assign a task, or when a person complete a task, a person can come and change the status of a task. But in a real time, it doesn't happen this way. It is like creation of implementation project, selection of options, selection of offering, that much. And after that, everybody who knows the implementation start doing the activity. And it is not like that you have to complete this set of tasks first. You can take anything. If you have a 5-member of team, everybody start working. Suppose that if a person is responsible for absences, the person will start creating the absence plan, absence approvals and all those things. But if you want, you can use.
As an implementer, you ought to know what options are under what offering. Is something that you should be really aware of everything, or there is a place where you can go and see what is available under what.
So it is like you have to expand this. So like if you're working on a worker schedule, so you can expand this. Or if you know something, then you can give a search like percentage manage location. So this will directly land you to the page which is responsible for creation of a location. And so you'll see this everything. So it is those set of task and task list is actually useful in your first or second implementation. When you have already done with first or second implementation, nobody goes and expand those task and task list. We use this wildcard character and we start typing the task and we know what to do next.
Makes sense.
So it is like in the initial, suppose that a person is doing for the first time, then those task and task list can help to that person so that the person will start from the top and will try to complete. But if a person is already done and he knows that for an core HR, the first thing is to create an enterprise, the second thing is to create a division, the third thing is to create a legal entity, then in that case the person can go and play that way he wants. So we have these task and task list. You can use assign task function. You can use the edit status function if required in your case. And if you expand, this task will have a different task again, subtask. And after that, this go to task will help you to land to the different pages which is responsible for performing of that task. Then in this predecessor task, you can see that if the task is depending upon some other task, then you need to complete the other task first, then you will come back to this task. So in this case, you can see 1. So we know that before completing this, we have to complete some other task. Then again, assign to is something, if you have assigned as a project manager this task to somebody, then you can come and see to which person this is assigned. And in order to perform these tasks, what are the different permissions and everything, once you give assign to, you can come and see. But these are something which we hardly use. So our first lab exercise will be, please use your login credentials, try to log into the system, try to create an implementation project, try to select workforce scope. I will tell you, Anuradha. So what happens whenever you actually do a certain set of activity, so you actually create a scope. Suppose that if you are working on a business unit, so you will create a scope that I want to work for a business unit ABC. Then only you will be able to work on that business unit, and you can use that task, manage business unit task. It is identifying on which set of data you want to work. For some of the tasks, selection of a scope is necessary. Okay, so guys, you have this lab exercise document. You can also take a help from this, and please try to create a implementation project, and please try to use a proper naming convention so that we can revisit in case, because same implementation project is something which we are going to use throughout our 5 days of training session. And once you are done, please update me in the chat box.
Praveen, can you show the navigation or to go into that implementation project, because in your PDF document it doesn't show me the navigation.
Sure. So you have to go to setup and maintenance.
Okay.
From setup and maintenance, you need to click
Gotcha.
manage implementation project.
After I click on setup and maintenance, where do I locate that option for the create implementation plan? I mean, does that come
so
in
there
search?
there should be a square button, task pan, what we call. So click on that task pan, so you will see manage implementation.
So you have to select the offerings before you start creating tasks.
Maybe I need to go back here.
Yes. Click next. Actually.
So Aniruddha, answering to your question, yes, we can. So once you are done with the creation of implementation project, once you try to open it, under task list and tasks, you will see a plus button. So if you click on that plus, it will again help you or ask you to select the offerings.
I mean, why take so much time? I'm like, because of the licensing, or I know it's a cloud.
It is a cloud, that is the one reason. And second thing, it is a test environment, and all of us are doing the same activity, almost. And as this is a test environment, so it is like simultaneously many persons will be using this. So one mistake which you have done is that you should just use a start date 1/1/1901 or 1/1/1951.
Oh, in the project?
Yeah, anything which you create in a system. Yeah, anything which you create in a system. What we do in ERP, whether it is PeopleSoft or e-business suite, anything which we create, any foundation data or anything, we generally use a date like 1951 or 1901, so that everything is in a sync.
So when a brand new implementation, when a client does not have any ERP product with them in-house, okay? So
Okay.
the first basic steps will be whatever we did now, and then the legal entities, geography, those are the things we need to implement.
Yeah, so we're going step by step. So the first thing is to create an implementation project. And after that, the second thing is to load geographies. Suppose that client is a multinational company, client works in US as well as India or as well as some other country. So we'll load the geographies for those countries.
Okay.
So that what geographies help is that whenever you enter any addresses, so the address will be validated. So you will have your state already there, you will have the zip code already there. So there is a very less chance that any corrupt address will be entered.
Okay.
Okay, and it also gives you flexibility to enter correct data or to search the particular state. And after that, we go with a creation of foundation data like enterprise, like legal entity, like identifying that whether the legal entity will be a legal employer or a legal entity will be a payroll statutory unit. Then we will go and create business unit. Then we'll go and create departments, location, grade, job. So these are the foundation data which we create.
Okay. So my question is, like, these legal entities, chart of accounts, I'm not going to deeper into the financial section, but any modules, everything is connected to all this legal entity. So I don't know what they call terminology in Fusion, but like that is done by application implementation manager.
Yeah, or implementation consultancy. Whether you do finance, whether you do supply chain management, certain part of core HR has to be configured.
Exactly. Okay.
So it has to be done by a implementation consultant. So what we see is that if there is a project which is purely finance project, so what they do is that they actually take a HR guy for a certain amount of time, and they ask us to do a certain basic configurations like creation of location, creation of business unit, department, and all those things which they will use in the financials.
Okay, so what if we already have a system and we want to convert that into Fusion? So it's going to be, everything will be conversions, right?
Yeah, enterprise is something which we will create manually. Okay. Yes. Other than enterprise, like data like legal entity, data like your business units, department, locations, all those can be bulk imported.
Okay.
So there we'll see in HDL. So we have a HDL or we have a concept of a spreadsheet. So there you can take an extract out of your business suite and you can use a bulk upload functionality and all of them will get created.
So in R13 version, still, do you have any more good functionality, the loading the data? I know HDL is a basic one, right?
See, it is all started, if I see about the release 1 till release 5, it was only spreadsheet loader. Okay. In release 5, FBL come into picture, file-based loader, which was a prior version for HDL. Then FBL was there. HDL actually came into picture from release 11. Okay. Till release 10, everyone was using file-based loader. From release 11, we are using HDL, which is an advanced version of file-based loader. On release 13, there is another concept of HSDL, that is a spreadsheet data loader, which is an alternative to the HDL.
What does that
So
mean?
it is like, yeah.
What does that mean, HSDL? Like any new functionality?
Human spreadsheet data loader, HCM spreadsheet data loader, HSTL, and HDL is HCM data loader.
What's the difference between these two, SDL and HFDL?
See, HSDL is mainly a spreadsheet based, Excel based. So it is a very user friendly first of all. Any user or any person who has a certain knowledge can do all those data transfer. HDL is something which is like used by a technical person. It is mainly used by for a complex set of data, mainly like a historical data. If you want to migrate a history of an employee from hire to till this day. So in that case, there can be 10 assignment change. If you want to capture all those details, then you have to go with HDL. HDL actually is like a what you can say, like it is the main ultimate concept for the data conversion. But suppose that as a end user, if you want to update certain locations, like if you want to inactivate certain locations, or if you want to do a certain mass update for a certain set of employee, so in that case you cannot call technical person every time. So in that case, what you can do is that you can use a spreadsheet data loader. So it is like it will download Excel on your system. You can fill that Excel and you can run that Excel. But HDL, it is in a text format. It is like a .dat file. So you have a way to create that .dat file. It has to be in a certain way. And HDL is actually used for the initial set of data conversions from any ERP from the old system to a HCM.
But we cannot manually enter all those data, right, when we have a large volume of data. So there are certain format templates they accept, Fusion?
Yes. So what we do is that we generally share a template with client or any partner. So there they will enter the data into an Excel format. So there they can write some SQL in their e-business suite or a PeopleSoft, which can extract the data into an Excel format. From that Excel, either you can go and manually convert Excel into .dat. It is like changing the naming, the extension, or you can write some Java codes or Java program which can actually read the Excel file and it can change into .dat format.
Okay. Still there is some technical work there. Okay.
Yeah, and if it is a small set of data, or if a client is only wants to have an latest row while conversion, then you can also use a spreadsheet data loader. But again, it will not support your complex data and the historical data.
So the main difference is, the main difference between HFDL and SDL is the initial as well as the refresh, right? Initial load is used only using HDL, and HFDL is used for any refresh, like any changes occurring between, you can use HFDL. That's what you mean to say.
Yeah, it is like user friendly. So it will download Excel on your machine. You can fill that Excel and you can upload, and it will go and update the things. Okay, so it is like for incremental purpose. So it is like if you want to do a conversion, initial conversion also, but initial conversion is not that much of complex. Client is very small or the employee data is not that much complex. So you can go with HSDL. So the difference is the way they handle the data and the way they will actually process the data. So let me show you meanwhile, and we'll see all these things into detail. So suppose that in HDL, if you want to load a location, so this has to be a format. It will be a .dat file. What we do is that you can enter the data into Excel also, and once you are done with entering the data into Excel, you can save the Excel into .dat format.